Hello, hello. Thank you so much for watching. This is Bronwyn, and what I want to share with you for a few moments here, some meditations and reflections on the energy of Pisces, along with a few images, artworks that I think evoke that beautiful Piscean energy. So I'm just starting with this gorgeous 20th century Japanese print of wave forms, which I think is so evocative of the beauty of flow states that Piscean energy can offer us. That Neptunian energy can show up in all kinds of ways, but one of the positive manifestations is access to flow, whether it's artistic, creative flow, or the flow of meditation, or the flow of our presence in nature, that delicious feeling that we sometimes get just being in, on, or around the water, the deliciousness of creating or merging with a creation like a gorgeous piece of music or a painting that we love. So I think with the expressive lines and the delicious deep blue colors and the evocation of that, you can always smell it, right? The glistening surf at the top of the waves. I just feel like this evokes that gorgeous ocean of Pisces for us so beautifully to begin. So what are the invitations as we open up into this season? What are the invitations of Pisces? The invitation is to dream, to merge, to release, to create, to surrender, to serve, to retreat, to dissolve, and to end. This Pisces season, I think, is special and especially intense in its invitations because of the approaching, the co-presence of Saturn, our structure maker, and Neptune, our dissolver of structures. It's a profound invitation for us to open into the dissolving of structures that need to end. This is an old Islamic sky map showing the constellation of Pisces, which this is a mysterious image, this idea of the union of these two, not opposing, but these two fish are swimming in different directions and they're bound together by something. And something about this image and this symbol expresses, I think, sometimes the essence of creativity can be that push and pull, something about that tension or that union brings things into the world, brings in the things that we create as well. I think there's truly a mystery expressed in this image of the fish swimming in different directions, bound by something. Diving a little deeper into the symbols and characters of Pisces season, who do we see showing up? What do we see showing up? The cosmic ocean, the image of the hermit or the pilgrim, the poet, the fish, the sea creature, the big wave, the dark beach, and the shapeshifter. These are all archetypes and openings to stories that are very expressive of that energy that we encounter at the end of the zodiac. This is the completion phase of the story and the developmental cycle that starts with Aries. We're in, if you will, the balsamic part of the zodiac where everything dissolves in order to be reborn. And as humans, we have always loved to tell stories about that and to create characters and images that express that inexpressible feeling of reaching the dissolving end of something, which can be bliss or can be grief. So here's a blissful depiction of that idea of the cosmic ocean. This is Vishnu floating on the waters of the cosmic ocean. We can also see a depiction of the lunar nodes here with the head and tail of the serpent. And obviously, there's a lot happening in the iconography here. I'm not an expert on Hindu iconography, but I'm sharing this just in the spirit of tapping into those universal images of the cosmic ocean, and especially that more beautiful, peaceful, blissful, and divine view of the cosmic ocean. And here is a more contemporary depiction. And I'm going to share in the notes all the artists and attributions of this, but this is a contemporary digital artist. It's not AI, it's a real artist whose medium is digital. And I think this expresses something about Pisces energy. There's so much mystery and evocative, fantastical beauty happening here with these giant koi fish swimming in the canals of a reimagined Venice, and that urn being emptied into the water. It makes me think of when we return ashes to the ocean when we're saying goodbye, and emptying an urn of ashes. So there's something here about the death and rebirth story of Pisces and the mysterious waters and the realm of the imaginal and the fantastical. So what are some other stories that we think of during Pisces season? These stories that we find in folklore, across cultures, in mythology, even in popular culture, in fiction, in movies. Think about all of the places that you've found these very Piscean stories, from deep in prehistory until, contemporary Hollywood. The story of meeting the mermaid, the story of being lost at sea, or the night sea journey, the story of riding the wave, the story of being in the belly of the beast, of moving with the tides, of fighting the sea monster, exploring the depths, pulling things from the deep or catching the big fish, a sea rescue, or a burial at sea. I think all of these stories carry elements of the mystery of Pisces. Sometimes when we can't, always when we can't express something in a rational way, we look to story to learn about it, to experience it, to share it with others, and to teach it. And there is a universality to many of these stories. As I was researching this Pisces energy, I came across an ethnographic map of this story of the belly of the beast, right? Being swallowed by the whale or swallowed by a big fish or a sea monster. This is a story that exists in some form or another across every continent. So many different peoples separated from each other in time and geography have told a version of the same story of being brought into the belly of this great sea creature and then returned to dry land. And it's almost always a conversion story, right? There's something that happens in the belly of the beast where there's a realization of divinity. It's a very beautiful story. I think it also, I would guess that part of the universality of it has to do with it being like a birth story, right? We all spend time in the cosmic waters of the womb and are returned to dry land at some point. So we all have that embedded, if you will, in our cellular memory. Maybe part of the reason that this story is compelling. But it's a beautiful story of, I think it expresses really well those darker moments that we go through in life and how they change us. And once we are returned from that, whatever it was, a period of depression or a period of loss or grief, or just a time of being separated from ourselves for whatever reason, that when we are returned to the dry land of our ordinary life, we do feel that we have been, if not given a gift, at least had our view of the cosmos changed, and perhaps our sense of connection with spirit enhanced. So see if you can think of some iterations of these various stories from mythology and folklore right up until contemporary pop culture and see what you come up with and see how that resonates with your own experience of Pisces season and of the Pisces placements in your own chart. So this is Caspar David Friedrich. It's called The Monk and the Sea. I think this painting is so evocative of that kind of loneliness, that Piscean loneliness that is also a sense of oneness with nature and with the divine. It's awe and wonder expressed in this painting with a little bit of that Pisces ominous dark ocean feeling. So here's this beautiful dark ocean with white-capped waves kind of merging with a dark sky above. The clouds are breaking at the top of the painting. We don't really know. Is the sun setting or rising? Is this celebration or grief? And we have this lone figure contemplating the sea. And I think this really speaks to that contemplative and creative and spiritual aspect of the Pisces energy, which can feel lonely and isolated, but is also about attunement to nature and natural cycles and feeling a part of the vastness. And speaking of the belly of the beast, I think the story that most of us are familiar with in our own culture is that's the story of Jonah and the whale, which is present both in the Bible and the Quran. And this is from, I think, a medieval illustrated Quran. And this is the whale, in this case, a giant fish, spitting out Jonah and this beautiful angel welcoming him with some, I don't know if that's something to dry off with, some clothes for him to wear, welcoming him back to the daylight world after his journey through the belly of the beast. It's such a beautiful image of that moment of being released from a time of descent or darkness. This is also, so on a personal note, this was chosen as the cover art for my father. Some of you may know that my father was one of our great Canadian poets, and this illustration was chosen as the cover art for his final book, which was published posthumously. So this image has been a part of my life and an invitation into all things Piscean from the time I was a child. It's such a beautiful image. So what do we do with this? How do we enhance and move through these very profound energies of this season? Here's some activities that I would suggest for getting into the mood, into the Piscean mood. Keeping a dream journal. And I really encourage you to take a creative approach to this. This is always that time of year when Neptune and Jupiter are active, when we're in Pisces season, when beautiful dreams can come to us, or very important and vivid dreams. And it's so great to have a record of those. It's so meaningful to track that. But I don't know if you've had this experience. I certainly have, where it's really difficult to bring the language of that world of dreamtime into the rational language of this waking world. So I've had a lot of success keeping dream journals that are more imagery based and creative. I used to keep a big basket of collage materials under my bed, and I would make a really quick collage, a visual capture of my dreams when I would wake up in the morning. You can do the same thing with art supplies. So broaden your idea of what a dream journal can be. It doesn't just have to be writing down the dream. Sometimes the dreams escape us even as we're trying to write them down, because it's really translating that wordless space into words. So maybe this season, play with a visual dream journal. What we're dreaming towards as we dream both in our daydreaming and our night dreaming during Pisces season is we're dreaming towards the actions that we will take in Aries season. So remember that each sign comes along as the next step in the developmental cycle, or kind of an antidote to the sign that came before. So we're going to move from mutable water and from these deep, cold expansive waters of Pisces into that very focused, action-oriented cardinal fire of Aries. Very soon here, we're going to move into that. So this is another reason that I really encourage you to keep track in some way of both what you're visioning for yourself right now in your waking time and what's coming to you in your dream time, because it may start to make sense what you need to do with that. What are the actions that you need to take as soon as the sun moves into Aries? So we are dreaming towards Aries action. So I said this already, but it's so delightful and comforting to be in, on, and around the water at this time of year, even if that's a salt bath. So if you can visit bodies of water, if you can stay hydrated, if you can take a bath every night, just commune with the waters, it's a really good time for that. Extra sleep, opening up to dream time by just being present in that world. And I think it's also a time, especially with Neptune being as active as it is right now, where we do feel a little depleted and we need extra rest. Our immunity can be a little bit low because boundaries are blurry. So lots of rest and honoring sleep and dream time. Whatever your creative practice is, obviously this is a beautiful time for that. Painting, writing, composing, creating. It's also a time of profound emotional release. It's a time to grieve, a time to pray, a time to vision and meditate and dance. Beautiful time for communicating with spirit and for taking action towards spiritual service. The story of Jonah goes on apparently after he's released from the belly of the whale, and there's many chapters to his story. He goes into the desert and grows this beautiful lush plant, and the fish continues to show up as a kind of wisdom advisor for him. So this is another beautiful, I think, medieval miniature showing the continued adventures of Jonah and the whale. I just love these waves, this representation of water. It's so both decorative and really just the movement is beautiful and delicious. Quickly, this is Gustave Courbet, who did a lot of these super moody seascapes. And I think, again, this just speaks to that liminal space of that dark beach that we can find ourselves on during Pisces time, whether Pisces time is actually during the season of Pisces, or whether Pisces time is a time when you're dreaming and visioning, a time when you're grieving, a time when you're in deep meditation, a time when you're in isolation, either chosen or forced upon you. Those are Pisces times, and we can feel ourselves in that kind of in-between space between the land and sea, and between sunset and sunrise, or between dark and light. And I think the moodiness of this painting, which again, it's really hard to tell, is this dawn or twilight? It's one of those liminal in-between times, and it's a liminal in-between space. And it's very evocative, I think, especially of the more shadow aspects of Pisces and the more challenging moments, the more challenging Piscean moments. So what support can we look to when we are going through the more difficult and challenging passages in the Pisces part of our chart? It might be transits to our Pisces planets. It might be just those times in life when we encounter the Piscean, we have to let something go. We're grieving something. We're deep in creative mode, but having trouble accessing the creative. So these are some supports for this time of the year and for those times of life. I put sobriety at the top of the list as a suggestion for navigating these really deep, boundless waters, that it not be a time that you seek support from mind altering. I know there can be a temptation, and I'm not saying that all mind altering substances are always to be avoided. I'm saying when things get very Neptunian, we sometimes don't need them. And especially if this is a place where you've had challenges or you're in recovery, this is a time to double down on sobriety. And even if you're not in recovery, it's still a time to double down on sobriety, because there's enough sort of boundarylessness between what's real and what's not. And also, when Neptune is active, all of those Neptunian substances can be much more potent. So sobriety, rest. I said this already. Rest and sleep, silence. Even just holding that silence from your own self-talk and chatter, taking some time away from the chatter of media, enjoying the relative silence of nature, although nature isn't silent. It's full of beautiful sound, but taking that time for contemplation. I said this already too about hydration, but on a nutritional level, keeping sort of our minerals and our hydration really at a healthy level is a good thing to do when Neptune's at work. Asking for help, how about that? Asking for emotional support from the people around you, checking in with the people around you who may be wobbling in their sobriety or maybe wobbling in their emotional well-being or their mental health. So asking for support, offering support, checking in, asking for spiritual support when you feel overwhelmed. There's so much support available to you if you only ask. Open-ended time in nature. So, maybe not your power walk around the lake, but your time of just sitting by the lake and watching the sun dance on the water. Process-oriented creation, not focusing on the outcome or on creating something, but just enjoying, tapping into that universal, creative, almost childlike part of yourself that allows play and open-ended creation. Music, making music or listening to music. Really specific, but lavender and rose petal tea. Lavender and rose are Jupiterian as well as Venusian. So this can be just really soothing and opening. It can aid sleep and restfulness. And it's just beautiful. Seaweed soup for those trace minerals that you might need a little bit more of right now, and just to remind you of the sea. And the same with salt baths. So those are some of my suggested supports for the season. Here's a big fish. there's all kinds of approaches to this story, right? And to that process of retrieving things from the deep of the unconscious. And there's a shadow side to that as well. Pulling things from the deep when they're not really ready, as opposed to allowing things to ripen and rise up. I think there's some play and contemplation to be done around those ideas as well. You've seen photographs like this before, I'm sure. It's so strange and beautiful to think of these creatures that dwell in the deep and our kinship with them, and also the awe and almost fear that we feel in their presence sometimes, and how we're not always aware. We're not always aware of what's just under the surface. So we have a few more days yet to set some intentions for this Pisces new moon. And for this Pisces new moon, or any Pisces new moon, these are some areas of life that it's beautiful to set intentions around. To set intentions around your spiritual practice and well-being, around breaking addictions, around your psychic hygiene, your intuitive development, creative development and breakthrough, your immune health, your sense of trust in the world, your ability to forgive and feel compassion, and your wisdom. So we'll end where we're beginning, begin where we ended. Thank you so much for being here.